You're listening to the Limitless Broadcasting Network.
This is Robby Reviews.
I feel the need for speed.
I'll make him an offer again.
Life was like a box of chocolates.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss
First
it.
rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club.
I'll be back.
Greed, for lack of a better word, is good.
Show me the
Roads. Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Robby's Reviews. This is a brand new podcast series on Limitless Broadcasting Network, and I have one more that we're going to be promoting pretty soon. But if you like movies, if you are a movie fan like I am, you'll love this. We're going to be reviewing all new movies and some old movies that you might have forgotten. Today, I have Sammi on for the first one because this movie is about the Barbie movie, and this is the reason why I wanted to have her on. So let's get into the Barbie movie.
Okay. So yes, I am a special guest only on this one.
Yes. To live in Barbie land is to be a perfect being in a perfect place, unless you have a full-on existential crisis, or if you're Ken. That's the tagline. The rating on this one is PG-13. Genre is comedy. Producer, Greta Gerwig.
Oh, she's a director.
Oh, director, I'm sorry.
Oh, I think she's both, actually.
She is, but actually, she is the director, I'm sorry. Greta Gerwig. And from the date of this recording, she is the first female director to have a movie cross $1 billion in the box office. So cool. Big ups to her. Congratulations.
Right. Awesome.
Producers, David Heyman, Margot Robbie, Tom Ackerland, and Robbie Branner. I probably fucked those names up, but
hold on. Can we pause for like 2 seconds?
We can.
Because why does his name seem... I think David Heyman was... he was the producer on Harry Potter.
So he produced... Heyman also produced Harry Potter.
He produced all the Harry Potter movies, because I've been saying his name weekly for 8 weeks over on the Pixie Dust Twins podcast. Okay, go ahead.
So Greta Gerwig is actually a writer on this movie. Release date is July 21st, 2023. Box office gross in the United States is $351.4 million.
And that's like as of now.
As of this recording. Running time is an hour and 45 minutes. an hour and 54 minutes.
Almost 2 hours.
Almost 2 hours. Distribution company is Warner Brother Pictures. There are so many production companies. There's Heyday Films, Lucky Chap, Entertainment, Mattel. Cast: Margot Robbie is Barbie, Ryan Gosling is Ken.
Well, let's preface: they're all Barbie and they're all Ken, but Barbie. These are like the main Barbie and Ken. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. America Ferrera.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can help me out with this one.
Yeah, Gloria.
Keep going.
Kate McKinnon. She was Weird Barbie. Issa Rae. I wanted to shout her out because we both were excited to see her in this movie. She was like President Barbie.
Yes. Okay. So she was on Project Greenlight, and she was also in the HBO show Insecure. So I actually really do like her.
Yeah, I like her too. I really love Issa Rae. Rhea Perlman is the ghost of Roof.
I think now I'm listening to a show called Business Wars as a podcast, and they do a thing about Mattel.
It's like Mattel versus Hasbro.
Yeah,
right?
They go to one over another, Business Wars, and they actually do the backstory of Mattel. So you should go listen to that because it fills in the backstory.
Yeah.
And that character actually makes more sense if you listen to this.
Right, you get the jokes. Yeah.
And then Willa Farrell as Mattel CEO.
Yeah, there are more people, but those are kind of the main ones, I think.
It has an 88% on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's the critics score.
Critics score, and 84% on for the audience.
It's pretty good.
Critics. So Barbie is very, very dazzling and comedy, and whose meta horror is smartly,
It's okay. Barbie is a visually dazzling comedy whose meta humor is smartly complemented by subversive storytelling. That's what the critics are saying.
Right.
Yeah.
I should have expressed that a little bit better.
And then the audience
says,
yeah,
clever, funny, all of that stuff.
entertaining. Yeah.
But there's a reason why I wanted to have Sammi on this is because we both saw it together, and I have different viewpoints than she does on this. So, well, that was Lucifer. If you could, that's our dog.
Was it Lucifer or Raven?
Oh, that was Raven. I'm sorry. If you heard that, that was Raven. She's burping in the background. So, there's a couple. The way we're going to do this. We're going to break this down by plot, attractions, theme, acting, dialogue, and cinematography. And if you connected with the subcategory, the category, the movie, and if you would see it again.
Okay. All right.
So, what did you think about the overall plot of the movie?
I liked it. It was cheesy, which is what I really expected out of it. And then it had some heart to it, which I did not expect going into the movie. I thought it would just be kind of like, because it's billed as a comedy, so I thought it would just be more just corny Barbie silliness with Ken, but there was a whole heart storyline that was built in as well that I did not expect.
I did think it was cheesy. The first like 10 minutes when they were like Barbie this and Barbie this, I got tired of them saying Barbie.
So what he's referring to, if you haven't seen the movie,
right?
Which I'm hoping you have if you're listening.
If you're
to
seeing
this, unless you're just trying to kind of gauge whether you want to see it, but everybody is Barbie,
right?
Everybody is Ken, which is kind of what I was saying because they're just different versions of Barbie.
Right.
So Barbie, Margot is like classic Barbie, but she says hello to all the other Barbies who are still just Barbie, right? They have different roles, but they're still Barbie. So
what's clever about this is they're discontinued Barbies.
Some of them,
of them are discontinued, but they're all called Barbies.
Like Marge, the pregnant one.
Exactly.
Yeah, they don't talk about.
But they say Barbie a lot in the first like 20 minutes of the movie, and then you're like, oh my god, I want to shoot myself in the face.
I did not want to, but I can understand why you maybe wanted to.
Okay, so what did you think what attracted you to this movie?
Well, I like the actors,
okay,
number one, and I think they did a good job of Margot and Ryan looking like what I would expect a person to look like if they were Barbie and Ken walking around.
Okay.
I think that was great casting there. And from the ads, it just looked, like I said, like cheesy, and that's what I would want going into a Barbie movie is a lot of corniness, a lot of just silliness and fun.
Right.
That's what I would want in a movie, and the colors and all of that, the pinks and...
So, when they shot this, they painted a lot of the background. A lot of ultra colors of violet, pink and all that. And they actually created a shortage on those products in the world because they used so much of it to produce this movie.
It's pretty funny.
So that's pretty funny to me.
That's a big...
So... The plot of it and the story, I personally did not like. I didn't not care for it, but I think the way they portrayed the men in the show, I didn't like. I thought the Kens where the way it came off across me is they were thinking these guys are pretty much dumb, useless, and I did not like that. And I was like, okay. And then they didn't realize that, you know, when they went crossover into the real world, the whole having the men have the house and all that and rule the house and whatnot. And then Ken goes back to Barbie Land and tries to implement that in Barbie Land. I thought, my opinion of it is Barbie was using Ken. And I like the fact that she did address that later in the movie. She matured, but I could tell in the beginning that she wasn't just not into him. And it's like, you're trying to date this girl and she's not into you, but she wants to keep you around for your money. And that's what I thought in the beginning. And this is why I wanted to have Sammi on this, because her and I have two different viewpoints about this.
We do.
So that's my viewpoint for the beginning of the movie. That the men in this are looked down upon, or they're not that smart. And we live in a world that people look down on us all the time. I don't want that.
Right.
Not just men, but I'm just saying in general, somebody's always looking down on somebody in the world. And I don't want that in a movie when I'm trying to unwind. I don't want that to be prevalent. And it came off very like men are this way and women are this way and blah, blah, blah. And the two didn't cross. The two didn't mix. Do you agree with me on that?
No.
Okay.
I do not.
Okay.
So first of all, yes, obviously Ken was way more into Barbie. And they even say that Ken has a good day when Barbie notices him. That's the whole thing at the beginning, right? And he's trying to be like, hey, Barbie. And then all the Kens are like, hey, Barbie. And it's a whole thing. But I understand what you're saying. But to me, Barbie doesn't need Ken. So you made that reference to like, oh, you're dating a girl who just wants you for your money. But Barbie doesn't need Ken at all. Barbie has her own house. Barbie has her own thing going on.
She does
She
say
literally
that.
doesn't need Ken
But
for
what
anything.
she does is Ken's trying to get to know her, and she's like, every night is Barbie or girls' night.
But at the end of the day, I don't think Barbie is purposely trying to lead Ken on. She's just being friendly because she's friendly to everybody. Barbie interacts with everybody the same way. She doesn't talk to Ken any differently than I feel like she talks to the other Kens or the other Barbies. She's just Barbie and friendly, and she talks to everybody and gets along with everyone.
But don't you think, I can't believe we're debating this, but don't you think Barbie should have made a point to look at him and be like, Ken, bro, we're just friends. We're just going to be always friends. If you want something like that, you should go after this Barbie. Or maybe you have something.
That's fair. Yeah, to make a point like, I'm not really into you. But I don't think she overtly tries to encourage him either. Because again, like we were saying, she's just like, well, we can hang out during the day, but then every night is girls' night. But she does, like you said at the end, she says, well, maybe not every night has to be girls' night.
I do appreciate her that she came... She grew up a little bit. She did realize that she was hurting Ken's feeling.
And she says to him, like, not everything should be about me with your life. You're Ken, and I'm Barbie. But when he was designed, because we have to go back to the story
Mattel
of the toys,
and everything.
Barbie was designed. Barbie had a wedding dress, because we just heard this. And everybody was like, Barbie's getting married to who? She doesn't have anybody. So they made the Ken. So Ken was made for Barbie, but Barbie didn't need the Ken. The audience, the people buying the product said, where's the boyfriend? Where's her partner? But at the beginning, Barbie was just Barbie, and she did not need Ken. So Ken was really created out of the consensus of the buyer, who said, you can't have Barbie with a wedding dress and she has nobody to walk down the aisle.
So you're saying the buying audience forced Ken on Barbie.
They made Ken come to be, because when she started, she just had lots of fun, pretty outfits to change into.
Okay.
And there was no man, and the consumers were like, well, who's she getting married to? And then it developed into Ken, and then as we know, they had some other male, less successful.
What was Ken's friend?
Alan. Michael Cera.
I will tell you, Michael Cera is fucking weird.
He is everything.
In everything, he's a great actor. I wonder how he is in real life, but like
probably
in
weird.
Superbad, he was weird. He actually did okay in that movie. I can stand him. In Arrested Development, when he was in Arrested Development, I was just like, he loves his cousin maybe, or he's doing this or doing that.
George Michael.
And
oh my goodness.
that's one of Sammy's favorite shows, so
Yes.
I'm not knocking it because I do like bits and parts of it. But he is fucking weird,
I get
and
you.
he is super strange in this movie. So
that's why they put him as Alan.
right. So that brings us to the dialogue part of this.
Okay.
What did you think of the dialogue in the movie?
I think it was fitting because all of the Barbies and the Kens were very superficial in all of their interactions, right?
Right.
Ken, he beach. That's what he does. Is beach. And, like silly stuff like that. I thought that was very well done because it was fitting because there's not a lot going on with these
Right.
Barbies. You don't start to get more dialogue until Barbie starts to have her crisis.
Existential crisis.
Yes.
Because,
Do you guys ever think about death?
and then it's like the record skips.
It's so awkward. And then she goes and you meet Weird Barbie and you get to start to see the development there because Weird Barbie is an outcast. So we get a little more insight into her. But the dialogue I really liked, which I'm sure was not relevant to you at all, but that was
At
when
the end.
Gloria comes in and they're fixing the Barbies.
Like, because when Ken goes back, they're practicing, I want to say monogamy, but it's not. But
No,
it's
what's the word I want
it's a
to
certain
think of?
word. When
It's on the tip of my tongue.
when the man runs the house,
Yes.
I can't think of it either, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
But Barbie comes back, and then Ken took over her dream house and is like, "This is my house," blah
Yeah.
blah blah, and all the Barbies are following them around, kind of like a role reversal.
Yes.
How it was in the beginning for the Kens.
Yes.
So I got that part, and then it brings us up to this part where they're talking about like how women are, and you got to be this way in reality or in public, and you can't be this and
what
be that.
she's saying is like the standards of society. So you should be, you can't be too heavy, you can't be fat, but you also can't say that you think you're fat, and you have to be body positive, but you really should be in shape and healthy, which really means thin, but you can't say you want to be thin because that's looked down upon. And then you should be like, if you're a mom, you should be a working mom and a career woman, but also if you're doing that, you're neglecting your children.
Right.
So you should be at home taking care of your kids and your husband, not working all the time. But if you're not working all the time, that's also seen as like a downtrodden thing. And if you're leading people, you should be assertive and firm and take charge, but you shouldn't really do it too much because then you're a bitch, and then that's not good either, and you get that sort of reputation. So it's all like the feelings, like she says it in one big long monologue that kind of wraps up what it can feel like to be female in the general world.
But she says this over and over to different Barbies, and
she does. She switches up the speech a little
Right.
bit so
But
that
it's
it wasn't
basically-
super repetitive, but yeah.
Don't you think Barbie has a feministic tone in it?
It does.
Yes.
But they make a point, and I thought that was interesting. They do address when Margot goes to find the little girl she thinks that discarded her. And that's America Ferrera's daughter. She goes up to her and she hears about how Barbie is ruining society because her proportions are unrealistic and nobody can look like Barbie, and she's ruining it for all the women by giving men unrealistic expectations of what a woman should be and look like.
And keep in mind, we've only seen this one time, and Sammi is basically killing it word for word.
And Barbie, and I love this because it's not something you go through that with Barbie, right? Like you love Barbie when you're little, and then you're just like, oh, it's so unrealistic. I don't want to play with Barbie anymore because no one looks like that. This is unrealistic for a woman. Look at her proportions. She'd look ridiculous as a person.
Do you really go through that as a woman?
I think like all girls kind of do that.
When you were actually playing with Barbie, did you have that aha moment where you were just like, oh, I'm done playing with you?
I don't
because
like
of
you
X, Y, and Z.
You outgrow the Barbie, but then you get to this point where you're just like, like look at the way she looks. Nobody could look that way. It sets unrealistic expectations. But I think the problem with Barbie is you grow up and now there's other influences. So you start to read 17, you start to look at these Teen Vogue, you look at God knows, whatever women's magazines, which constantly are telling you how to lose weight. how to be skinny. Especially nowadays, are a lot more. It's different, like a lot more body positivity, and you should be healthy.
Because
legitimately should be healthy, but not.
Now we're in the
anorexic.
woke generation.
I don't want to get into that. What I'm saying is like body,
right?
Specifically for this, because when I grew up,
right
in the 90s, everybody was super thin. The 2000s, if you look at some of these actresses like Lindsay Lohan, Paris Hilton, look how skinny they are.
Right.
That was what you were supposed to look like.
Right.
And if you were heavier than that, you were fat. And that was that. Like,
and believe me, I grew up in that generation too, and I was one of those people that were like, "Oh, you're heavier." I wouldn't say. I always liked a girl with a little thickness. Jeremy, on the other hand, it was like, if you're over 2% body fat, you're fat.
See,
and
there
he
you
would,
go.
And he would literally say that to women's face, and I'm like, Jeremy, I know we come from an affluent community, but there's being respectful and not being respectful.
Yes,
but
and
he
I
just
agree
didn't.
with you.
He just didn't care.
But not only was Jeremy saying this and probably seeing it in magazines, but that was a big thing with us growing up is we were never
tones.
Skinny enough. And it's not just...
That's what you guys are saying. Us.
Well, it's not just men.
We grew up in that era.
But it's not just the men. The women do it too. And she says that in her speech too, that women also judge other women and put these expectations on. We do it to each other. So it wasn't just like only men are doing this to us. She's like, women do it too. And that's what I'm saying. Like those skinny, having those pictures and being told that you're not thin enough and this is how you should look. Barbie just seemed to perpetuate that. So I feel like, at least for millennials, maybe you go through that period where you're just like, oh my God, Barbie is the worst. But what I liked in this movie and what I appreciated is they said, and Margot comes out as the original Barbie saying, that wasn't my intent. Barbie is, everyone can be Barbie. And look at all the things she can do. She can fly an airplane, right? She can be a doctor. She can be the president. You as a woman, as a little girl, have the whole world open to you. And look at what Barbie did. And you can be just like Barbie. And that I liked from the movie.
That's Mattel's intent. They think Barbie is your role model. If she did this, you could do that. And I agree with that. Anything you want, the world is open. Is your oyster. And I agree with that. I think there should be no limitations on anybody. But that's a societal thing, and that's...
Some of the jokes they made, I think, were fair, too. Like, they go to Mattel's headquarters, and they're all men running this division. And they're specifically talking about Barbie, which is aimed at little girls.
Right.
Now, granted, boys can play with Barbie too if you want to, but the idea is it's generally a girl's toy.
Realistically, most people popped heads off of the Barbies.
I did that. I had a skipper whose head was never on.
Well, you're a sociopath, though. I'm just kidding.
I had a Ken too that I think I popped his head off, but I was equal opportunity.
So you got
to pop the
both
heads
of them off.
Yeah.
So... what did you think of the overall story involved with this?
I like the cheesiness, the outfits that Barbie had. That was so much fun. Or Ken, when they would stop sometimes and like show the outfit and like label it for you, and they explained what each Barbie was, and the Kens, some of the different Kens, and Alan. Because definitely didn't know who Alan was before this. But
no, definitely not.
Yeah, I like those cheesiness and you know, like when they're rollerblading and they have those ridiculous like 90s outfits on, and they were all based on real Barbie and Ken toys. So they weren't just making this up. Like they were basing them off of true dolls for some of the outfits.
Right.
I loved all of that. But I also loved that we did have those real moments, like with Gloria, America Ferrera's character, talking about what it's like to be a woman. I liked that because it was relatable to me. And the bits where Barbie, spoiler.
Well, if you're watching this or
just
listening
major
to this,
spoiler.
I'm assuming you're either trying to figure out you want to go, we are going to do spoilers on this.
So major spoiler here. When Barbie decides she wants to stay in the real world, it was so touching to talk about what it means to be a person. And that wasn't like, they didn't say what it's like to be a woman. They said this is what it's like to be a person. So and I thought that was so nice.
You think Barbie ended up growing out Barbie Land because she wanted to become more of a person?
Yeah, she wanted to
expand her horizons.
Yeah, exactly. Because Barbie in Barbie Land has a perfect life, just like she said. Although it seemed like by the end they were going to change things up so it wasn't going to be so divided with the Kens and the Barbies and all that. And they were making progress with that. Right. But yeah, Barbie Land, you don't have all the range of emotions, which makes sense.
Because everything's perfect there.
Yeah, and that's what it should be when you're with Barbie, because she has this great life and you can be like Barbie and achieve her dreams. So she shouldn't be, what was it? Did they have, like, what was the names of the Barbies? Like, because they had like the dreaming about death Barbie and like the existential crisis Barbie, and it was pretty funny. Like, no one really wants to probably play with those Barbies. So
the
it's
crazy
better,
people do, but yes,
it's better to have Barbie be more of an optimistic toy. Right. But if she wants to experience all the feelings and knows what comes with it, then I think that's fine.
Let me look at my notes. What did you think of the? We've talked about the acting, the dialogue. What did you think of the cinematography? Like how things were set up.
Oh, I think that Greta Gerwig did like a great job as a director, and the colors, the costumes.
Right.
It didn't feel too slow to me at any point in time, and I liked the different sets. You always knew whether, the real world contrast to the Barbie land and the fact they were practical sets.
Right. And they were all practical sets. And they did like pulley systems to make it looking.
When they're traveling.
And
yes.
I will post some behind the scenes stuff of the Barbie movie. This will be eventually be available on Instagram, and you can follow us. If you haven't done that yet, this is the first episode. So let me ask you this. Does it mean anything to you that a woman directed this, or do you think a man could have done the same thing?
I think to get the right tone of Barbie, even though a lot of men have run the company for Mattel, I think that having that woman director and helping co-write it, I think did make a difference for the tone of who Barbie is and who she should be, because she was designed for little girls and for women.
Okay.
So, and not to say anything like a man couldn't, maybe feel some of it, but to actually know what it feels like to be female or to know how it feels to play with Barbie, I think having a woman do it was the best choice.
So keep in mind, this movie just hit $1 billion. So that means there's a lot of crossover between men and women.
It, yes.
So you don't get those numbers if you can't cross over. And so that's somehow, some way, Barbie has done that. Are you surprised at all that?
A little bit, because, it's based on a toy.
Right.
That's very old at this point in time. It's based on a female toy, and Hollywood is notorious for making it pretty clear they don't think women can really be the stars of the movie, that they can't be the main focus. Although I do think that the Marvels is also going to prove them wrong when that comes out in November.
Okay.
It's all female.
And we'll have you back on for that one too.
Yay.
So, I mean, there's a lot of nepotism in Hollywood. I mean, that's the studio system, and that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, really.
You kind of have to change Hollywood from the inside out to get more inclusion of men and women. I think because of this movie, it's gonna start opening the door for that inclusion. But most people in Hollywood, and I'm being for real on this, think, you have a Barbie movie, they think it's a fluke. They think, oh, it's a fluke. This couldn't happen again. In a time where we live with reboots.
That's true.
This is finally coming out, and I think the reason why it has done so well is because it serves a neglected audience. Even though I thought in the beginning it made fun of men, and I didn't really stand for it. It wasn't making fun of them. It's the tones they use. Well, you know what it was. It was saying like the real world society is men run it and women have to deal with it. It was just an exaggerated version of that in Barbie Land. And exactly. And I think it got better. So in a time where we live in reboots, it's fresh new content. It serves an audience that most studios don't serve. Do you think, in my opinion, I think Hollywood will start making more movies like this?
Well, they had Bridesmaids. That was like a really big movie when it came out. And that was a while ago now. If I recall, it made a lot of money and it was pretty popular.
I don't think I ever saw Bridesmaids.
But it's all female cast again.
It's kind of like...
It's not my kind of humor. I'm going to be honest with you.
It's kind of like...
not my favorite movie, but...
The all-female Ghostbusters. That flopped at the box office.
It did. I don't think it was that bad.
I don't think it was that bad either, but
it's not my favorite storyline.
Most people say it was terrible.
It was certainly not terrible, in my opinion. I don't think that movie was terrible. But
we're kind of talking, kind of apples and oranges because they're different humor, different genre.
Well, and this movie too, you could bring kids. It's PG-13, but you really could bring kids to it because some of the more adult jokes are just going to go over their head. They're not going to get some of the humor, like when Ken's going to stay the night and Barbie's like, oh, what are we supposed to do? And he's just like, I don't know. That's pretty funny. But yeah, I think that helps it too, is that because it's Barbie, people probably were like, oh, I can bring my kids to see this movie. And that's another thing. It kind of appeals to a lot of people. That's one thing I liked about this is it was not like for kids. They did base the humor for adults. And that's some of the common ground I could get involved with the movie. Yeah. So could you sit down and watch it again? I definitely could. Yeah. I think if you were like, let's go, I could do it, but I would not want to. It wouldn't be my first choice. I would want to go see Oppenheimer. Now, right now, it just released, so it's Barbenheimer. So we have Oppenheimer and Barbie, but put that together, it's Oppenheimer. Or Barbenheimer, I'm sorry. Barben, yeah.
And so we have not seen Oppenheimer yet, but that's movie. Something I really and truly wanting to do, and we will have that on the podcast soon. So where would you rate this movie from 1 to 10? 1 being the worst movie, 10 being the best movie of all time.
I would probably give it a solid 8.
Okay. I would give it a 6.
Ooh.
Because, I liked it. It was entertaining, but it had a lot of undertones I didn't like. And that, I know it got better, but, first impressions are hard to overcome, especially in movies. And I wanted to see it because you guys wanted to see it, but I also wanted to see it with you guys because clearly you and I have different opinions of the movie. I thought it was more feministic and feminine tones and everything, and that's cool because that's the market you're in, and Hollywood does not serve that to you. Most movies in Hollywood are, they don't even do comedies anymore because they're too expensive. But it has to be like crime or a reboot or a shoot 'em up bang bang movie. You don't get a family movie that you can bring your daughters or your granddaughters to a movie and say, let's go watch this. Yeah. It's nothing that in this movie you don't have to cover your daughter's eyes and be like, it's always that one scene where you're watching it and then that sex scene comes on and you're like, oh, fuck.
But Barbie and Ken do not have genitals, so
they do not do that. So nothing in this movie is you have to cover up or be ashamed, or you're not going to have to explain anything to your kids afterwards. I think if you're going to go see this, you're going to have a good time. And that's why this movie has hit $1 billion.
I agree.
And I commend her. I think she is now an 8-figure director. This movie sealed the deal, and she can pretty much do whatever she wants in Hollywood now.
Which is good. I'm sure Greta Gerwig will use it well.
And I definitely think there will be a Barbie 2.
I was wondering.
Now I'm surprised they haven't greenlit one already, and we just don't know about it. But there will be a Barbie 2. So you said 8. I said a 6. So hopefully you got something out of this episode. Hopefully you liked the banter. Again, if you like movies, we love movies. This is what this podcast is about. I really wanted to start a new podcast about movies and reviewing movies and giving you guys my honest opinion about it. And that's why we wanted to start this. So this is the first episode of Robby's Reviews, produced by Limitless Broadcasting. It's on the Limitless Broadcasting Network. Please like and subscribe. And we will be back with, well, we've seen so many movies, but the next one I'm going to do is Sound of Freedom.
Ah, good
because
choice.
that is, I will probably have you back on for that one because, but she is a guest on the show. But
yes, I will not be on every episode.
Right. I will have people on. You will, we have another podcast we're launching on the network. Marvin will probably be on several of my episodes, or I might do phone interviews or Zoom interviews and have other people, but or sometimes you might just get me and I'm bantering of what I think of the movie.
Yeah.
But hopefully you enjoyed this first episode. Please like and subscribe. You can find our content on any place you get your podcasts. And I think that's about it.
All right.
So thanks a lot for tuning in, and we'll see you for the Sound of Freedom.
Awesome.
All right. Bye.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Robby Reviews is hosted by Robby Brooksby as part of the Limitless Broadcasting Network. Post-production and intro by Sammi Brooksby. Follow the show on Instagram at Robby Reviews Movies. Check out the other shows on our network by following at Limitless Broadcasting on Instagram and at 1950 Studios on TikTok. See you next time.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.